Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Yarns with Andy. Today I've got Micheal Murphy, one of the most influential people in the New Zealand tech scene. I'm quite excited for this episode. We're going to be delving into a little bit of world politics, maybe?
Possibly. Might get there, Andy. You never know. You never know.
Maybe. But tech-related world politics. Let's put some ring fence around that.
Yep.
And exploring strat apps in a way, sort of form where I've been talking to Micheal about coming in as an investor on strat apps, and we've had some conversations about it, and we're still having conversations about it. Although, why not have a podcast recording, Micheal?
Sounds like a plan.
There we go.
Sounds like a plan.
Welcome, mate.
Thank you. Hey, really good to be here. Thanks for having me. It's been a while in the bacon,
Yep.
but good to be here.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from.
Yeah, so originally from the UK, as many people can tell from my accent, I'm sure, northeast of England, what was the industrial heartland of the UK many years ago.
How'd you end up in New Zealand?
Yeah, well, I came out on holiday in '93. Did a bit of a tiki tour around. I was pretty unhappy with my job at the time in the UK, so I was looking around in the UK, and the holiday came at just the right time. New Zealand was such a great country. Kind of loved the look of it. I set up a couple of interviews for when I was here. Got a couple of job offers, and then came back in about 6 months later to take up one of those job offers. And I thought, me and my wife came in with a wife at the time. And she's still my wife as well. So, and we thought we'd stay for a couple of years. And 33 years later, we are
still here.
32 years later, if I get my maths right.
3.5 decades, mate.
We're still here. So yeah, no, New Zealand's been a really great country for us. We've just loved it. You know, we've had a couple of kids here.
Yeah, nice. Nice.
One's overseas now. One's probably about to go overseas. So we're kind of part of that part of our lives now. But no, New Zealand's been great. Kind of we'll probably get into different parts of my career in tech as we go.
Where you been up to in New Zealand?
Well, I came here originally. I was in the IT services game, so I came up first. That job offer I took up in '94 was with Ernst & Young. In their consultancy division.
They're not here anymore, are they?
No, Ernst & Young are definitely here. No,
they are here.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think did I actually join Arthur Young before it was Ernst & Young? Anyway, doesn't matter. I was in that kind of IT consultancy kind of add-ons that happened to all of the accountancy firms. Did that for a few years. Ended up creating my own business in the same space. So it was a business focused on implementing Microsoft ERP products, what's now the Microsoft 365 product suite, but back then it was called Microsoft Business Solutions, then it became
Microsoft
Dynamics and the like, as it sort of went through the different name changes, but at its core it was kind of always the same technology, really. And then I kind of we did well. That business was very, very successful, managed to sell it to HP, of all people, big...
For $5.4 million,
it was...
my stats team gave me the number.
It was a reasonable sum of money at the time. It wasn't enough to retire on, unfortunately.
Yeah, right.
But it kind of gave me a little bit of play money, and I kind of got involved with angel investing through the Ice House. Eventually became chair of the Ice Angels, and Ice Angels doesn't exist anymore. It's kind of morphed and changed into the very, very successful Ice House Ventures, which is more of a funds-based model than an angel model. I'm still involved with angel investing through another group. But hey, look, it was a wildly exciting time, but it kind of moved me from being, originally I was working in services, deploying technology into New Zealand domestic companies. The investment scene at the time and continues to be dominated by software products, majority for export. So some may stay here, they might start here, they might, form their initial kind of market traction. But almost all what are now SaaS companies, they weren't even called SaaS companies when I got involved with them to start with, but those SaaS companies are all focused on overseas markets. So there was that definite shift from being involved in inbound services activity versus outbound kind of product activity, and that was the big shift. And it kind of, at one point I was doing 80%. My day job was mostly around services, but my kind of hobbies and my extracurricular activities, for want of a better word, were the export stuff. But by the end,
export of tech products,
correct. And then, but by over 10 years, that changed, and I got more and more involved in the tech export sector, and eventually ended up with a role at New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, heading up the export tech sector, which was a role that lasted for a couple of years, and I really enjoyed that when I was doing that. But I'm now back to just kind of sole trader.
You sit on a couple of boards as well now, don't you?
Yeah, so I kind of got my governance start really by being a lead investor, and then being the investor rep on the boards of
For the angel investor
correct
group that you
for the
actually
investment
represent.
for the investment group, and it's like that was 10 years ago. I did my first kind of board role on that basis. Now I've got some companies that I work with. I sit on the board of that. I am an investor in that company, and I represent the other investors on the board of that company
As a subject matter expert in
correct.
technology.
Yeah. But in other companies, I've kind of now just I'm not an investor. I'm just board chair and helping those companies grow and exit at the right time.
Yeah, cool. Sounds like fun, mate. Sounds like an exciting.
Oh, look,
career,
it's been a journey for sure.
Yeah.
I've done a couple of other things along the way. I've kind of worked for Datacom, which I love. I mean, Datacom are just such an iconic New Zealand tech company. Just love my time there. Great culture, great environment. It's very rare that you don't bump into people in the tech sector who haven't worked at Datacom, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's a really great place to work, and I really enjoyed that. Headed up Intergen in Auckland for a while, which was a Microsoft software deployment company, which was very successful in its day. Now no longer exists. Eventually got sold a couple of times and ended up as part of Capgemini.
So, Michael, so you spent kind of 30 years of your life bringing American tech products into New Zealand.
Yep.
Now, recently, you've made the shift, taking New Zealand tech products and shipping them to the rest of the world, by the sounds of things.
Yep.
What's more exciting for you?
Look, I mean, each has its merits, each has its challenges, each has its opportunities. I mean, as I said, that shift happened over a 20-year period, and so
Gradually.
it was only by the end of it that I was 100% focused on export. But through the 20 years from when I sold my company, I was increasingly involved in export. I don't think one is more exciting than the other. I kind of deliberately moved away from the services space because at that time I had been doing that for 12 or 15 years. And I was starting to get a bit bored with it, and I wanted to do something different.
Well, which is easier, you reckon?
Which is easier? Again, I think they're just different. I mean,
They're
I think
completely different job markets.
No, ultimately, I think from services, there's an immediate feedback loop, right? So because
there is a problem, you go on there, you solve it.
You go out, you kind of find a problem, you solve that problem, and from a business perspective, you get paid immediately. You get that services revenue comes in, and if you're doing really well, you get more and more services work. So there's an immediate feedback loop for you, not just for the technology you're implementing, but also for your capability and your customer engagement model and your pricing and all the things that you are putting your business model. There's an immediate feedback loop to that, and straight away, and you're in profit or you're not, and you can grow or you don't. In the software, in the kind of investment funded growth world, the feedback loops are much longer. Quite often it can take you 2, 3, 4 years to really get to a point where you're really confident that your business model is successful, and that's why you get that growth capital. That growth capital comes in. You're making losses for a substantial period of time, but there's a kind of promise that at a point in the future you are going to get. You're going to get a successful business. So the feedback loops are quite different in terms of the amount of time you get. So ultimately, that kind of drives very different behaviours. I think in the services world, it's much more short term. You're much more focused on immediate cash flow,
monthly billings,
all that kind of stuff. Absolutely. Yep. And in the product world, you've got a bit more time to think about what's the right customer engagement model? How do I create long-term value for my customers? How do I take this product into overseas markets? Obviously, the US is a strong focus for other companies. It might be Australia, might be UK, might be other markets. So you've got a whole bunch of other kind of cultural and logistic challenges to work through when you're going into those markets. So I wouldn't say one is easier than the other. I think they're just fundamentally different beasts. For a long time, I would have, at a personal level, I kind of moved away from the services market for a reason. I kind of got a bit bored with it, really. but I've definitely come back. I've talked to a few companies recently that are a bit more service oriented, and I think AI is changing that. I think you're getting some quite interesting new business models that are kind of AI-enabled services, so technology-enabled services delivery, which, StratApps has this manifestations of that there. And I think, I'm kind of coming back to a much more neutral ground about which I prefer, whether services or the product market. So, I wouldn't say I've come quite full circle, but I'm probably in a more neutral place now. I
Dabbled
guess.
in both worlds. And
Yeah.
Look, I want to loop this conversation back into StratApps. So for context, StratApps is the platform that we've launched it's a contact platform that we've launched, which you know about.
Absolutely.
For the audience, we've launched it free. And there's a few basic apps on there that would help productivity within a construction organization. So I have a very interesting business model, and I have a very interesting problem. Are you open to helping me through it?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
That's probably not in the notes, but okay, I'm winging it.
That's all good.
Yeah. So I'm a services business.
Yep.
Strategic planning.
Yep.
And we offer specific services to the industry. And cool. Like you said, monthly billing is okay. We chase work, we deliver work, we add value, get the fuck out. Great. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to understand the problems that we are going through as part of the services business and automate it with the tech business, which is StratApps, right? We've been successful in launching a few apps, which is cool. Haven't had a lot of uptake, but that's okay. With early days, we only launched in January this year, so we're 4 months in.
Yep,
it's fucking excited.
Yeah, totally.
It's super exciting for me. Yeah. So, what do I do to gain growth in StratApps? How do I?
We've had a couple of conversations about this. So I think that the construction sector is a really kind of interesting one. New Zealand's got a productivity challenge in general,
massive.
But the construction sector in particular is it kind of at the bottom. New Zealand's at the kind of bottom of the pile internationally in terms of productivity growth, and construction's at the bottom of the pile within New Zealand as well. So it's kind of
we're at the bottom of the absolute bottom.
It's the lowest of the low in a way, right? So which makes it exciting in a sense because it's a major challenge, but also
the opportunity
is enormous, right?
Yes.
Correct. So the goal, that kind of prize, that whole adage is the juice worth the squeeze, is definitely there, right? There's a lot of value to be created in that.
But is New Zealand the right place to create that value? Because, I have a view on it. I'll tell you my view after you go.
I think New Zealand's is. Look, I couldn't. I don't know the construction sector well enough to tell you the kind of mindset nuances between the different markets.
So we're in half a mind to pull IBOQ, which is our main service offering, out of the New Zealand market completely.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of reasons why we are contemplating pulling it out of the New Zealand market. 5 million people, out of which there are 300,000 people in construction, out of which, I don't know, how many people are focused on digitalization, This market's not there, right? Globally, I reckon from a Contech perspective, other countries are far more advanced than we are in New Zealand.
Yeah, look, and I'm sure I think that's true. But if I look at this from a kind of over a 20-year journey thing, when I first got involved with angel investment space, as I said earlier, I think, a lot of companies were still kind of much more focused on the New Zealand market to start with. And there was this kind of general mantra of create traction here and then go to Australia or the US. But there was still that kind of idea that you would start here. But over the 20 years, more and more companies have just went, let's just go overseas to start with. Let's just go away and get into those international markets as quickly as possible.
And get better traction.
So it doesn't mean to say, again, the idea,
But
pulling something from here is quite radical. I would, my guidance on that would be, focus on overseas markets. But if someone from New Zealand wants to, don't say no.
We're not going to say no.
No, great. But I think the idea
of uptake here, Michael, 90% of software that's utilized is American owned in New Zealand.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a lot more trust that comes when you turn around and go, oh yeah, we're not developed in your back door, mate. We come from America. Oh, that trust level just instantly goes, and we're going. Let me tell you an interesting story.
Yep.
So we have a client overseas, in the Middle East, right? And the client goes, right, we're going to put you in touch with somebody in Sweden, and they have a problem that we think you've solved.
Yep.
And we went, okay, yeah, put them in touch with us. And we got in touch with this company in Sweden.
Yeah.
And this company in Sweden turns around and says, so we work with somebody in New Zealand, and it's actually their problem that we're trying to solve.
Yeah.
We said, who's this company? And it's actually a tier 1 construction company in New Zealand. That's about 26 kilometers from my house.
Yeah.
And we're going, the fuck? We've actually solved the problem. Why aren't we getting contacted for this? And why is somebody getting contacted through Sweden to Middle East back to us? This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's fascinating.
It's fascinating.
I think New Zealand, we can talk about SMBs at all sorts of different levels, and there are lots of challenges and issues with New Zealand SMBs and their uptake of technology. One of the things I wouldn't say about the SMB sector in New Zealand is that it's averse to buying New Zealand technology. What I would say, though, the corporate sector here is quite averse to buying New Zealand technology. So if you look at...
So it's the corporate sector, not the
correct.
SMEs.
So if you look at that, and there's a whole bunch of other challenges with SMEs, but if you look at that very narrow topic, and the government here is woeful at buying New Zealand technology, by the way, as well. So,
so the government...
I mean, to be fair, there's been some changes in some of the procurement settings of late, enforced by the industry. The industry's been pushing for increased local content in government tenders and stuff. But anyway, that's, again, another topic for another day. But SMBs do tend to, they will buy from New Zealand. But corporates here, this whole not invented here thing is a real thing, right? People find it very difficult in the corporate sector, in my view, and historically, to buy New Zealand technologies. They will look overseas first and foremost. They will kind of believe the sales hype that goes with, better funded, better organised sales models.
Better stability, more stability. And God knows what else. Yeah,
and all sorts of things that go with that. So I've seen that. I mean, the story goes, people, if there's anyone listening to this podcast who was around 30 years ago, they'll remember a guy called Brian Peace Computing. They were doing a lot of great work in the electricity sector or electricity billing sector. There were 39 electricity billing companies in New Zealand at the time, before the market deregulations. They could not get a start here. I mean, maybe they had one customer. Didn't work for them, went overseas. He set up the company in Florida, I think. He said he moved to the States. This is 96, 97.
Oh, yeah.
It's a completely different generation of software. But it was still the same challenge. And he went to the States, did okay. He didn't become a global kind of company or anything, but he certainly made a very successful company in the context of but he couldn't get a start here. And I think, you see there are a number of different examples. I mean, there's a really very capable company still here called DataTalk, based in Wellington, do tax software. Couldn't get any kind of traction with our IRD, but have got contracts with companies all over the world or governments all over the world for tax software. So there's a whole bunch of different examples of Kiwi technology not being taken up by corporates. SMB, bit different.
Well, again, you take Xero success.
Again, SMB focused.
Yes. So Xero success. Xero didn't turn around and go, we're going to target the corporate sector. They actually targeted the small and medium-sized businesses.
Correct, and got themselves a start, and then have gone overseas and have done very, very well. Absolutely, no.
They are. Yeah,
that's exactly that's exactly the point I'm making. I think SMBs and sole traders, which is effectively where they started. They were working in lower than SMB to start with, really. I think it's really the challenges with the corporate sector, and I guess construction and a lot of the companies that you're targeting are the corporate sector, right? So I can get your frustration.
You get my frustration?
Totally.
It's a huge fucking frustration, mate.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. I'm going for hours.
Yeah.
But okay, so just on that topic, right? So what would happen if Microsoft turns around and says, we're turning off Azure tomorrow? What happens to all of these government organizations? What happens to all of these companies? Or turns around and says, even worse, says we're turning off Azure for the Oceania sector. All right?
Yeah.
What happens?
Oh, look, I mean, if that happened, a lot of things would go dark pretty quickly.
For the government? For corporates?
The government, for corporates across the thing. Is that likely to happen? I don't think so.
Is it a possibility?
It's a possibility. Look, again.
Well, you mean do a risk analysis on it, right?
Yeah.
Is it possible it could happen? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And what would happen? The consequences if that happened?
Yeah.
What are they?
I mean, there is that kind of existential risk of them pulling the plug, and I think, I have been thinking quite a lot about the challenges of the US mono tech stack. I think we are in a...
What's a monotech stack?
So basically the idea that for the last 30 years, we've taken almost all of our technology from the US, so from Apple,
Yep.
AWS, Microsoft Azure, the whole lot. So it's that kind of US corporate mono tech stack that's all from one place. I think we are now at a point of inflection. Clearly that global infrastructure and technology is changing. That it's moving much more towards which AI are you using, where does the AI come from, as opposed to necessarily the infrastructure piece. Now those elements are often owned by infrastructure providers in the first instance, but there is a kind of a different layer that people are now looking at. I'm heading to China next week as part of a tech delegation being put together by NZ Tech.
Oh, yeah. Part
of that, what I'm looking to do there and what the group is looking to do overall is to try to understand how the technology is being deployed in the Chinese market, and to what elements of that could we use here. You can argue that China's ahead, is it behind, but there'll be bits, certain technologies, certain players that are more advanced and certain behind. But it's certainly, the playing field is leveling up. So this thing about whether or not Microsoft goes dark or AWS shuts down and we're restricted from it, I think the bigger risk is one of that associated with long-term rent extraction, in the sense that they can just keep putting the prices up, they can keep us locked in on one particular platform over time, whereas I think the best strategy for New Zealand longer term is to have some choice. So have some other alternatives that come from other markets and come from other jurisdictions.
But we're so tied to America right now. And look at it this way, right? We actually do majority of our exports to China.
Mm-hmm.
By a long fucking mile.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Cheap, milk powder and pizza cheese, I think, are the two big ones. But yeah, absolutely,
yeah. But then we look to America for technology. We never look to China for technology. No. Why is that?
Oh, I think it's fundamentally because that technology has been the best technology available at the best price point for the last 30 years.
And that's come from America.
And it's come from the US. And those companies have... they invested quicker, they grew quicker, they got their sales teams out better, and there was...
there's probably a language barrier with China.
If you go back 25, 30 years, there was a computer industry in Europe, bulk computing, and there was a number of computer companies I think Bull was French, there was companies in Britain, all disappeared, that doesn't exist anymore. But you're starting to see the European Union now particularly the French again, are trying to kind of think about how do they create their own tech stack and decouple to some extent from the US. Now, that's a big challenge. It's an area that I'm kind of reading up more on, trying to understand. But I think there is a point now where people are looking in other places for technology, and I think the place that it is most obviously available and at decent price points, and you're certainly not compromising functionality, is if you look into the Chinese market. I mean, I've been using a Chinese product called Manus. If anyone knows
Manus. I know Manus. Yeah. I've used it a few times.
Yeah, it's awesome product.
That's cool.
Awesome product. It's as good as any of the US ones, and it's in fact, again, it's at the middle of a bit of a geopolitical shitstorm at the moment, because
isn't that the one that's acquired by Meta now?
Well, that's where it's at. It was originally it was invested in by US VCs. The Department of Justice in the States was going to prosecute that VC for investing in a foreign technology, which they didn't like. But then when Meta bought it, the US were quite happy for Meta to buy the whole thing as opposed to just investing it to help it. And now the Chinese government have come back and nixed the deal. But I'm not quite sure how that works, because I thought all the money had changed hands. Anyway, it's a mess. But again, it's... when you've got those sort of things happening geopolitically around a particular product set, you kind of got to know there's something good about this product, right?
100%.
And I think
otherwise there'd be no interest in that product.
So from my perspective, we need to open up our eyes to these technologies and not necessarily be wedded to tech from any one jurisdiction. Now, I'm not saying we need to go all in with the Chinese either, at all. And look, and I'm sure American technology is going to be a big part of our future as well, right? But how do we create a better environment for ourselves by having a bit of choice? How do we have a bit of choice? How do we create a better environment because we're not locked into any one environment? How do we make sure? And New Zealand's a good a good global partner. We're a small country, but I think we're well respected in both the US and in China. We're kind of one of the few countries that's managed to
globally we're well respected.
But particularly amongst those, we've kind of managed to walk the tightrope between the two a wee bit. How long that lasts is another question as well. So yeah, look, I think it's an exciting time, and again, coming back to the switching the lights off thing from a Microsoft perspective, I don't think that's the risk. I think the risk is one of that associated being too wedded to any one supplier or any one set of suppliers for any one jurisdiction. How do we create some choice? How do we, there's this concept of data sovereignty, and we kind of need to own our own data.
What's data sovereignty?
Ultimately, data sovereignty means about the ownership. You have to, owning your own data, and I think to a large extent we legally do own the data, but when it sits somewhere else in the world on someone else's servers, I think there's a gap between ownership and having access, right? And if the access can be cut off, then what's the point of owning it, right? But anyway, that's there's some semantics in there. I think for companies,
so why should a tradie care about data sovereignty?
But I don't think they should care about data sovereignty per se. I think what they should worry about is choice. They should worry about the fact that am I being locked into any one provider that is not going to be providing the best solution that's in my long-term best interest at the best price, and really it's about having that choice. I think at a individual trader level or company level, data sovereignty, I'm not sure is a concept that needs to be thought about. But at a kind of governmental level and a kind of legislative level for a country, it needs to be thought about to create the right environment where that choice is available. Fundamentally, how do we actually do that? I've got some thoughts on it, but I don't know. I think part of my trip to China is to help me and others sort out what that might look like, particularly with the combination of US and Chinese tech.
Interesting. So, Michael, if you were, so if you happen to be New Zealand technology minister.
Right. Okay. Never got that far in government, but anyway,
it's not an unlikely scenario.
It is totally unlikely.
You're not.
But I know. Let's go down that path. Okay.
I don't know. It's a podcast. Let's shoot the shit.
Cool.
Right. So if you're New Zealand's technology minister,
yeah,
3 things. What would you do for New Zealand's benefit?
So there was a program that I saw in Singapore last tech generation during the SaaS generation. So the Singapore's government poured a hell of a lot of money giving out grants for people to actually install software, SaaS software, in their companies to enable them to go better. I think we should be doing the same with AI. So we should there should be money available for companies to basically not do workshops, not do education, and there's a lot of that stuff around. It's actually implement some software in the companies and actually do some work and improve the process.
How would you know what's the right software to implement?
Well, you'd leave it to individual companies to do that, but what you would measure is the fact that there's some outcome, that they've actually done something, they've run a project, and you only get access to this once you do something. You actually got to deliver some activity, and it might fail. It might not necessarily. The learning might be from a failure, and you're going to do something else in the future. But actually installing the software and actually doing the work with the product, that would be.
But then you can't really measure productivity out of that, though, could you?
Oh,
I mean, is that the aim of actually?
No, I think at this level, it's really just about to get some activity and get some action and get people
providing access.
Correct, and getting it done, and people. Reducing the barrier. In a way, you've made StratApps free in order to kind of reduce the barrier, the financial barrier for people to explore. It's exactly that sort of thing at a kind of general level. The second thing would be really, again, we're always looking and tweaking the kind of immigration settings. There's a global battle on for AI and robotics talent. I think we should be, finding every way possible to get the most talented people here on that basis. We tend to have quite general.
Even if we bring the people, do we have the infrastructure, Michael?
Yeah, look, no, New Zealand's got world-class infrastructure, IT. Our
where?
In terms of technology infrastructure,
yes,
our broadband and the like is as good as you'll get anywhere. It is.
We are well connected.
Yeah, no. So okay.
And we are building
so
data
our
centers.
technical infrastructure is not the problem. It's what we've built on top of it that's the problem, or the lack of pace of what we've built on it, and bringing and look. And again, I've got to be very careful. These things are. I think there are some. I mean, clearly, I've worked in the sector. I know some awesome companies that have done brilliantly. We've got, anybody. You can always pull out really good examples of really great New Zealand companies, from Sharesies to Rocket Lab to Xero to, there's the list Halter, the list goes on and on and on, right? There's some fantastic companies.
Yeah, Halter's the recent guys.
Yeah, but if you look at the data, relative to companies that we like to compare ourselves, there's just not enough of them. We have not created as many companies like that as Denmark or Sweden or Singapore or Korea or any of the companies.
Why?
I think there's a bit of there's an ambition challenge here. I think
vision challenge.
Ambition.
Okay.
Ambition.
Yeah.
I think people, in general, there are a whole lot more ambitious people and who believe in their ability to create globally successful companies in other countries. I think New Zealand's got examples of that, and again, be very careful because a lot of people I know are super ambitious and want to go. But again, it's a relative thing. I don't think there's enough of them relative to other countries, right? And so the second thing I'd be doing as the minister would be looking at those tech settings, the immigration settings, and how do you get people with that level of ambition with the right skill sets to build those companies, right? And it would be focused on AI and robotics, right? Now, there's a global battle on for those people. I think we need to, but don't forget we're a small country, right? I mean, if there are, 300,000 people like that in the world, we probably only need, 500 of them to come here, and would make a difference, right? So how do we attract them? New Zealand's a great place to live, great place to bring your kids, always has been, always will be. I'm certainly focused on trying to maintain that. That's for sure.
There are no snakes. So.
Yeah, no snakes. Always a good thing. Yeah,
that's a really good sales.
Oh yeah.
That's a really great sales.
It's not Australia.
It's not.
Sorry for all my Aussie friends, but look, certainly, we could, it's that what are the immigration settings to bring in very specific people in that are going to help with that. There's the other one would be the settings around the investor migrant program. I mean, there's been a lot of talk on the investment migrant program. I think there's still too much of an opportunity for investor migrants to be putting their money into unproductive assets and not into productive assets, and particularly around
when you
tech.
say unproductive assets, which means the investor category where they come and buy a house. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, so rather invest your money into technology or something that would
so,
actually benefit
and so they have changed some of the settings, and they are better than they were, to be fair. But again, more emphasis on that. Really focus on making sure that the
three key things you've brought up, real three key things. So give all the small and medium-sized companies some money, let them play around with some software.
Yep.
Bring in some top tech talent.
Yep.
And the investor category for visas to be invested into productive assets.
Yep.
Mate, you should be the Minister of Technology.
Thanks.
Do you get it wrong?
No.
I'd back all three of those ideas, by the way.
No, I really look. I work for. I worked for New Zealand Trade Enterprise, as we said earlier. I also did a bit of work with Callaghan Innovation. I thoroughly enjoyed both roles, but I have to say, the public sector is not a place I'm looking to go back into, shall we say? Yeah, I will leave it at that.
And I won't dig in any further.
Absolutely, sounds good.
All right, back to startups. Right?
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so you being an investor, having worked with multiple investing companies.
Yep.
What can I do to help startups grow? Honest piece of advice.
Look, I mean, I think you've put your software out there into the world. I mean, I think you've got to really. It is about. There's lots of companies create really good software.
Creating software.
There's lots of companies out there who've created really good software.
Yeah, sure.
And I think what I like about the startups model is you as a practitioner, someone who's done that work as a consultant as a practitioner and as a consultant in that market, you've created a product that manifests that capability and enabled that through the software. A great start. the question then becomes one of usability and how do users who are not as experienced as you extract value from using that software, right? And so you've really got to get to the users. You've got to spend time with them. You've got to really understand what they like about it, what they don't like about it, and get that kind of customer feedback, right? And really move from being, this is my idea of what people think is valuable, to being, what do people think is valuable? What do the actual end customers think? And once you've got that feedback, that's what you then take back in the product and you iterate from there, right? And I think...
So do the penance and go and sit down with every single user, understand what their requirements are.
Yep.
Feedback loop. Does that work for you?
Yeah,
better?
look, my sense of what I've seen of apps for, I mean, I think it goes beyond the... I mean, I think there's... You've already you've got a good understanding of what their requirements are,
yes.
But I think this is at a level below the basic, feature list or list of things I needed to do this. It's kind of how it does it, the way the usability of the software, kind of intuitively how do people extract the value that they need to extract to make them want to use it time and time and time again, right? And it could be as simple as the form factor. You might need particular devices to be able to take it into construction environments. Sure. It might be
iPads,
screen line. There's a whole bunch of different things that go into software usability that you cannot get at your desk, basically, right?
Yeah.
You have to go and see how users are using it, what they're doing with it, and get that feedback and build from there. And once you've got that feedback, that's when you start to work out, how, where your value proposition is, what you should be charging for, what your monetization strategy is. I'm intrigued by your comment. We haven't spoken for a month or so I wasn't, I know you've won some business overseas, which is fantastic. And that whole idea of the New Zealand corporate market versus the overseas market, there is a lot to be said about getting into those overseas markets as quickly as possible and finding success where you find it. I think the planet has shrunk.
Oh yeah, thanks to the internet, mate. It doesn't really matter.
Totally.
I had a meeting with a guy in Korea yesterday, so
yeah, totally.
Like, who cares?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the opportunity to go and do that much more quickly, and which I know you have been doing, is manifest. So with that customer, that's you drill down with that customer. There'll be things that they don't particularly. I mean, they've obviously engaged with you. They're likely enough to pay you some money, which is fantastic.
Sure.
But don't take that for granted. Spend all the time, right? Okay, what didn't you like about it? What should I do better? How do I make it better? And really kind of get that feedback and build from there, So, a lot of companies that I've worked with, they take 12, 18, 24 months to get to a point where they've got any kind of viral growth or any kind of real kind of, it takes a while to get it right. You just got to be patient and, yeah. But customer feedback's the key.
Customer feedback, yeah.
I mean,
it's funny.
it's not rocket science.
Mahesh from Phase 1 Ventures?
No, I don't actually. No.
Okay, he came on my podcast as well. And he said, he told me something I'll never forget. He pretty much the same message, just in a different tone. I guess. He says, your customer is king. Whatever they say is right. Are you catering to them? You need to cater to them.
Yeah.
It got me thinking.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know better.
Yeah,
I'm like, he goes, fucking kill your ego, mate. Nobody gives a shit. I'm like, oh yeah, fair point.
And then it's interesting, right? So there's a whole bunch of different arguments, right? So the whole Steve Jobs view of the customer, right? Yep. Which was, well, the customer doesn't know what the fuck they want. Excuse my French, but I do. And he was enough of a design visionary to kind of create a product in a category that didn't exist before he did it, right?
He revolutionized
it, but I think the examples of those kind of out of the box, kind of design-led or individual-led, kind of market-changing technology deployments are rare. They're much more often.
You're one in a billion.
Yeah, you're much more often getting this kind of incremental customer-driven thing. I think the interesting challenge though for SaaS products in general and all software that is, trying to create a solution that works with multiple companies from one code base is you get a massive amount of feedback that's contradictory. Some people
Oh,
like this, some people like this way, some people
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that way,
yeah.
some people like that way. I think the art of the founder is to have enough of a vision about where they want to go and what's the kind of
Direction.
the general direction, and the kind of the kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Ultimately, the philosophy of the software almost. What is it? Philosophy. What are we trying to achieve? What's the big gap? What's the big problem we're trying to solve? But within that, be able to sort the myriad of different levels of feedback, much of it contradictory, and come up with the feature set, the function set, the engagement model, the screen layouts, the form factor, all those things that meet the majority of those customers in the best way that they're all going to want to buy it, right? And so, there's it's not as simple as going the customer's king. They are, but each customer is his own king and his own person, and they've got their own different views. How do you sift through all that?
How do you cater to everybody?
How do you sift through all that to come up with something that'll work for everybody? It's a challenge. Interesting. I think AI is going to change some of that as well. I think it's going to give us a huge. I think it's got a huge opportunity because it becomes, again, the whole idea of mass customization goes to another level with AI. You can change things so quickly and whatever. But again, that's another topic.
Yeah. Fair enough, mate. Seems like I think we've done an hour, eh?
Have we? Oh my goodness! How's the camera been on?
Yeah, about an hour. But yeah.
Yep.
So finishing thoughts, mate. You've got any finishing? So I'll actually have one more question for you.
Oh, go on.
Sorry, before we get into that.
Yeah.
One more. So say I'm a tradie. I'm getting into using AI, building a few applications.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. What does that journey look like for me as a tradie?
For a tradie. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, tradie. As in somebody who's a plumber, but he's capable enough to build his own applications. And there's a tech stack that exists using AI to do that today, right? It's not that difficult. It's not that complex. What does a pathway for somebody like that in New Zealand construction look like?
Oh, look, I'll answer this a little bit about talking about people in tech companies and try to think about what that looks like for tradies, because I know the people. So in a couple of the businesses I work with, it's moved now that what we're trying to measure in our people is AI curiosity.
Yes.
So it's not about which tool you use. It's not about how you use it. It's not about, but a willingness to be curious about what it is, how it might work for you, how it might help you, and how I can bring the power of this amazing technology for the benefit of me as an individual or the company as a whole. So I would, again, the one piece of advice I'd give is it's not about a particular path or a particular set of software or a particular training regime or anything. It's just be curious, just be interested. It's not that hard to find, right?
It's not.
Using AI to find it, right? But what are you interested in? What's your point of entry? Where did you hear about this? What were you talking to your mate in the pub about? What was it? And then go, right, let's go on to Gemini or ChatGPT or go on to Perplexity or any of those products and go, right, this is my question. How do I start? And it'll tell you. 100%. And you just go from there. What I want to do, it'll tell you. It'll help you. And then you just
it could lead you down a rabbit hole as well if you're not.
Yeah, could do, but generally,
hey, I've been down a few of those, and I've had to pull myself out.
They're pretty good.
But the one thing I love about AI?
What's that?
It's how it always finishes with a question and gives you the next action to potentially take.
Yeah.
And you're always stuck there, and you're going,
yeah.
Oh, maybe I'll yes, that's a great idea. I'll just try that bit. Oh, yeah, you keep going. You keep going a little further down. Gives you another suggestion for something else to try.
Yeah.
It's making you completely dependent on it. I'm sitting here going, this is just as addictive as fucking Counter-Strike when I was in university.
Oh, look, I mean, my great use, what I've found the most use is learning and education. And that advice of what should a trader do is kind of ultimately a manifestation of my own use of it. Is somebody's talking about something. There's a lot of stuff I know a little bit about, and I go, I should know more about this, or I should know, that's really interesting. and I just go and do it. I go and look at it. I find out about it. I run. I'm lucky enough to have a Gemini Pro license. Run it in deep research mode on a particular topic. It creates me a kind of fantastic report. They've integrated. Do you know what Notebook LM is?
Notebook LM, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
So they've integrated Notebook LM into Google Gemini. So
Yeah.
it just says it's called Audio Overview. It's not called Notebook LM, but it's effectively the Notebook LM technology.
I use it all the time. Yeah.
And so you've got this unbelievably deep, dense kind of research paper that then converts into a podcast for you. And I'll on my morning walk, these podcasts are normally, you can ask it to create a longer podcast, but these are generally only 5-7 minutes. So I create 3 or 4 podcasts which I listen to on my walk. And sometimes I'll kind of take a topic and ask it for counter view. So I'll go, I want it to be biased in this way and I want it to be biased in that way. Create 2 different podcasts and listen to them, which gives me a very different perspective on
left and
on
right.
the topic.
Yeah.
And I think the ability for an individual to take a topic, expand on it, learn from it is just phenomenal. And that's how I use it. There's other things I do with it as well. But from a personal development perspective, it's just outstanding.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, there's multiple use cases. Of
Absolutely.
AI. Like we use it quite significantly within the services business, and we've actually embedded an entire AI layer across the entire business now.
Yep.
Which is for which I had to go through a full structural change of the organization.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work gone into it, but now that we've set it up, and I believe we've set it up right, it's phenomenal.
Oh, it's like having a whole new resource pool at the number of agents you can deploy in your business to run the functions and help the people in your business. It's like,
It's like I've just replicated my brain, which is interesting.
oh my goodness, that must be an interesting thing to look at.
Know, mate. Yeah, I'll show you sometime. It's top secret.
Looking forward to it.
Anyways, all right, Michael. Hey, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for all the valuable insights and all the knowledge that you've shared with us, which is really, really cool. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and best of luck on your trip to China, mate.
Wonderful. Yep, I'm happy to share my experience with you with a beer when I get back.
Yeah, cool. And
so that's good.
Hopefully, we may see you as New Zealand's next technology minister as well. Maybe. Let's see. Time will tell.
I don't think so. But anyway, time will tell.
When you do become the technology minister, come back and say hello.